guys. So all I know is there's 5 presenters. They told me I was first. They said something about wanting to finish strong, so yeah. Anyways. So I was going to talk a little bit about this topic of finding wind. So I've got a picture of a sailboat up here. You know, we all want to be successful in our companies and our personal lives, and oftentimes there's these invisible forces that push us along. And you know, in my role as CEO of Altus Assessments, we're proud members of past alumni of DMZ, by the way, in 111 in the Toronto tech community here. So glad to be here. But in my current role as CEO, people often ask me kind of like, how did I get to where I am right now? What was my work history? And I wanted to go through that because there's kind of an unusual kind of trend or thread that went through it that's not obvious at first. So anyway, I'm going to do a super quick overview of the last 20 years for myself. I started in biomedical engineering, did work in orthopedic robotics actually, so trying to bring these things in. Realized engineering and academia don't mix very well, finished that up. Moved to Ottawa. Got my first job working for a contractor to the federal government. This is the second time you're going to hear Y2K in the same night. Working on Y2K issues. So January 1st, 2000, I didn't have a job and was looking for something to do. Started working for Nordion in Ottawa. They do a lot of radioactive isotopes and helped them set up one of their first manufacturing lines for radioactive drug products. Interesting company. It's on March Road in Ottawa. If you took the, that's not their hot pool, but they have these hot pools there. If you took all the cobalt-60 out of there and laid it on the ground, it would give lethal doses of radiation to cruising altitude planes flying overhead. So cool company in Ottawa. Went over to the hot photonics sector after that. Had a great time working for a company that raised over $60 million and learned a bunch there, notably how not to spend $60 million in 2 years without a product. So moved from Ottawa to Toronto afterwards, started working for SciEx, that makes mass spectrometers for pharmaceutical research industry. Super interesting, very, very sensitive machines that they use in drug discovery. As a practical example, they could pick up a drop of blood in an Olympic swimming pool sized volume of water. So they're very, very sensitive. Practical application would be finding drug cheats in the Olympics, for instance, but not just drug discovery. You probably have seen the smaller versions of this when you go through airport security and they scan your badge or your bag and put it through a machine. Went to the nanotech space after that into a materials startup and was VP of Sales and Business Development there for about 8 years. I could give people some good advice on materials startups. Don't. I was there for 8 years, and it probably would have taken me another 12 to get something serious going. It just takes way too long. And as you do, then I started an ed tech startup 3 years ago, and here we are to the current time. So, and I know what you're thinking. That progression makes total sense. This is just a normal thing that people do. Probably not. I mean, I jokingly describe it as a bee going and pollinating flowers. It's about as straight-lined as that. So, so there's kind of an invisible thread that runs through it all, and I guess that was the point of my talk. So if I kind of look at the jobs that I had, first 2 I had to hustle for sure. Interestingly, though, my third job was actually a referral from the guy I worked with in the first job. My fourth job was a referral from a guy I worked with in my second job. My fifth job was a referral from a guy I worked with in my fourth job, and the boss that I left 8 years later introduced me to 2 academics that I ended up starting Altus Assessments with. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, we talk a lot about product advocacy and word of mouth, and I don't know that we think about ourselves, like I didn't really put this together until I described it a few times, but I don't think we necessarily think about it in terms of our own reputation as much. But you've got these advocates that are around. If you're building trust in your reputation, making others look good, really focusing on that part of it, and delivering on your promises, you're building up a network of advocates for your own self. So it's important to have a network, and I just sort of caution that it isn't like a more is better type thing, right? You want to have, it's not a transactional type relationship, it's quality over quantity. And there's definitely some currency around your reputation. It's like thinking about a stock or something like that. Even the way we talk about a reputation, staking your reputation, you're putting it all on the line and trying to make a go of it. So, anyways, this is something that, and this is my last point, that you build every day. It's when you go into work and you're impressing and delivering on your products with your coworkers, customers, friends, families, and especially investors. And that one I actually wanted to touch on just really quickly. When we talk about best case scenario and we slip over the line into plain fiction, that stuff comes back to bite us. This community is, well, the tech community globally, every community is actually quite small, let alone the Canadian tech community, let alone the Toronto tech community. You want to be in this for 20 years, 30 years, not to just get a check. Yeah, so basically that's all I had to say. So thanks, guys.
Questions.
Phil, get in there, Phil.
Do I have to run the mic down?
So I just want to know, can you just put your details back up, please? I just want to have, yeah.
Which details?
So your first slide?
First slide.
Yeah.
I can do this.
My background in psychology, I'm really into
This one?
education and things like that. No, the other one, the one with your handle.
Oh, this one.
Yes, please, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was the easiest question I'll ever have to answer.
I'll ask a question. How do you pick which jobs to take?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I didn't tell you all about the jobs that I didn't take along the way. So for me, it's got to be, I think the biggest thing at this point in my career especially is that there has to be a super strong customer pull. Even in starting the current job that we're in, that we're doing at Altus. So to give everybody an idea, we started it 3 years ago. We assess over 50% of US med school applicants this year, aiming for about 80% next year for people skills. So something to be used alongside, say, the MCAT. And we do that in a whole bunch of other industries as far away as Australia. The big thing for me was that when in looking at any new product, you want to go out, you want to get out of the building, you want to go talk to customers. I never know. I know when there's a bad product sometimes, but I don't really know the difference between good products until I go and talk to customers. That's been the biggest thing for me, is that when you see that customer traction, that gets me super excited. So that's the easy answer. Thanks, Alex.
Which are your industry transit?
Oh.
Over here?
Okay.
Okay. My question is, you mentioned during your first two jobs you had to hustle. Could you give us some tips, techniques on how you went about hustling for your first two jobs? Thank you.
Sure. I mean, you guys are in it right now, I would say. There's a whole bunch of people around here with blue markers, including myself, hiring a senior AE, by the way. Yeah, go talk to them. I mean, I find it, especially at Canadian conferences and gatherings, there's a lot of shy people. Like, get a little bit of, I'm going to bolster you guys a little bit after this is all done. Get out there and talk to a bunch of people you don't know. I see a lot of people talking to people they do know. Go find, make it your goal to meet 5 people you don't know.
One last question.
Which of your industry transitions was the most difficult and why?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably switching from engineering to, so I was senior systems engineer, and switching over to sales. That was the hardest one, not to do for myself, but to articulate. So it took a little bit of work to say, hey, this is something that I can do and that I would be good at. Good reasons why that would be true, but that is not as linear a switch over as other jobs would be. Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.